What's up, everyone? Welcome to the High Passion Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel K., and we're here with another great guest, Millz.
How you doing, Daniel?
Millz is the owner, producer, and editor at The Cookhouse, and he's here to talk about his passion for the music industry and how cannabis influences what he does. Let's get into it.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming, man. It's great to finally put a face to the name. You know, we've been talking a bit. I know you do a production for Domboy, so he's the one that linked us up together.
That's correct, yeah.
Good to finally put a face to the name, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, I've heard about you from quite a few people. Actually, all good things.
I was just gonna say, hopefully, all good things.
Yeah, so I checked out the podcast there, and I was like, man, I feel like I could be a good candidate for this show here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, good to finally be here.
So tell us a little bit about the Cookhouse.
So the Cookhouse is actually located just on New Toronto Street, which is just by Kipling and the Lakeshore there. Okay. So it is a facility that is basically a recording studio, but it's a multimedia facility, if you will.
Got you.
Not only do we offer music production, we offer recording, we offer writing, we offer photography, we do music videos, podcasts, all kinds of things, anything to do with entertainment.
Got you. So you're just all around production,
basically,
entertainment.
Yeah. So that kind of grew from just being a recording studio, but obviously you keep building, years go by, you network, you meet people, and you create a team.
Okay.
Right? So the Cookhouse is, yes, it's something I started, but it wouldn't be what it is if I didn't have my team.
Perfect, man. I mean, it's huge. The team is everything.
Yeah, you can't do this thing by yourself, man. You can't do much by yourself, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So who are some of the people that you're working with?
So shout out to some of the team members. Quasi, Gene, Tara, Domboy, Rob, Swerve, Contra, Ricky Bobby, G1, Lance, the list
Huge
goes on.
Team. Yeah.
Of the Saint, there's a whole network of us. And to be honest, we all do different things.
Got you.
And that's where the word team comes in. So anything to do with entertainment, you can find us at the Cookhouse.
Yeah. Well, the name itself is a pretty dope name.
I appreciate that.
Cook it up.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm glad that you caught that because the new lingo with the younger kids nowadays is, hey, you want to cook up? And while we were looking for a name, it just kind of fit.
Organically came out.
It just fit. Yeah.
Yeah. So who are some of the artists you're working with right now? Obviously, you shouted out Domboy during that right there, but who else are you working with currently?
Currently, I am working with Domboy. I have him in a development program over there. I'm also working with Tara Lord, another Toronto artist.
Yeah. Domboy actually put me on to some of her music. And fucking
amazing.
Yeah. Doing things.
Yeah, super talented, super driven, and just very consistent. Which is kind of what I look for when I'm working with somebody.
Okay.
Another person that I'm trying to develop as well is Scribe.
Oh yes, Scribe.
He was one of two members that was a part of a group called Soap.
Got you.
Definitely check out their mixtapes and stuff.
Yeah, check out Scribe. His brother is one of my day one best friends. Shout out Jordan. Shout out Scribe.
Yeah, that was one of the mutuals that I was speaking about. So man, there's so many artists that I'm working with. Another artist, Michael Demetto, who's like a 15-year-old kid.
Wow.
Yeah, there's all kinds, to be honest with you.
Good. Yeah. That's what it's about, bro. Got to keep moving, keep going. And I mean, you're putting and investing your time into these people as well as they're investing into your business. So it's awesome that
of course,
you keep moving, can't stay stagnant.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your musical influence growing up?
That's a good question. To be honest with you, funny that you asked that. Let's go back to I want to say when I was like 13 years old, 12 years old.
Okay.
And, you know, I grew up very close with my brother and my sister.
Got you.
My sister was into like the pop back then, which was like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all that stuff. But there was this one band that her and my cousin were just crazy over. And the band name was Hanson, believe it or not.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Now,
don't think I've heard of them.
right. So basically, there were these three brothers with long hair that were a pop band.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
And you know, I was younger than 12 years old. Actually, I was like a little kid. My cousin and my sister and myself used to pretend to be the three members of the band.
Nice.
And they made me the drummer. So my cousin was like, "Oh, let's just get some like pots and pans and you can bang on them." And then everyone was like, "Hey, like you're kind of good at this. Like why don't we figure out like getting you a drum kit?"
Try to do it.
So it started from there, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah, so super young.
Yeah, I got my first drum kit, started messing around, met a couple guys in high school that had similar interests to start a band, and I kind of threw myself into a punk band, believe it or not.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, very different from where you kind of focus now, so that's interesting.
Yeah, just a little bit, right?
But that's more the type of music you were into, or is that just more okay?
At the time, yes. And like, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy that music.
For sure.
I definitely enjoy that music, but it's not something that I do all the time.
Gotcha.
But there is somebody that I'm doing a project with right now that there's a little bit of that influence in there.
Nice.
So, but we'll leave that for later.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it started from that, getting into drumming. And then from there, it was just being in the punk band and then going from punk to hard rock and even a bit of heavy metal.
Oh, wow. Like deep into it.
Yeah. You know, we were doing shows, like sometimes we were doing, 2-3 shows a week downtown, even being in high school.
Nice. So you were getting out and performing at this point?
Yes.
Wow.
After that, the lead singer of my band, who's actually currently in a band right now called Damn It Goldie. Shout out to Damn It Goldie. Guys, go to Spotify, stream their songs. You won't regret it. Okay?
Sounds good. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah. So so Evan, who was the lead singer and the guitarist of my band back then, is actually still playing music.
Good for him.
The other two members, they're not doing music anymore.
Okay.
For whatever reasons that, you grow up and things happen. Yeah. Right? Basically, back then, we were kind of taking it seriously, but our guitarist, Evan, again, got signed as a goalie.
Oh.
He was a great goalie. Took hockey very serious. He was very professional about it. So he moved away. And he was actually signed by Don Cherry's team at the time, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So, obviously,
Throwback.
He had the talk with us and he was like, "Man, like I'm moving like 3 hours away." And we're like, "What?" Like, what are we going to do? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So anyways, myself, the bassist and the guitarist, Lucas and Alex, shout out to those guys. We created a reggae and ska band.
Okay.
So obviously punk has the influence of ska.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And once we got into the bands that were doing that, we were like, okay, this is kind of cool. But what if we did the ska with an actual reggae vibe? Right?
Doing something different. Yeah.
So again, we were making songs, performing for a bit, and then I don't know, man. After that, we just split up. Everybody kind of went their own ways.
Yeah.
The one guitarist, Alex, went into another band called The Red Ones Last. They played Warped Tour and all that stuff.
Nice. Warped Tour is coming back.
Yeah, shout out to a lot of the bands that we were performing with at that time, like, the Heat Scores, Protest the Hero, the Flatliners.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it was a whole scene.
Yeah.
Back then.
Great experience, I bet, though.
It was an amazing experience.
Yeah. That lifestyle, rock star lifestyle for a bit.
Definitely. But yeah, after that, I just kind of picked up the production.
Yeah, so you transitioned from the actually played and being a musician side to taking more of the behind the scenes role.
Yes. Yes and no.
Okay.
So the truth behind that is I started doing music production digitally.
Okay.
And shout out to Ricky Bobby, who gave me my first Yamaha keyboard
Oh,
to start making beats and
your
stuff
boy
like
hooked
that.
you up, eh?
Yeah, he hooked me up. Shout out to him.
You gotta
And
love people like that. Those
of course,
influences,
yeah,
it makes a huge difference. You know,
yeah.
something small
He
turns into this.
he's like a blood brother to me, man. You know, like we've known each other since we were kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gave me my first keyboard, and I started just messing around and making melodies. Like I had already known how to play drums, so I had the rhythm.
Got
You
you.
know, I was playing guitar, messing around with the guys. You know, we would just like swap instruments, like musical chairs in a sense, right? I would play bass as well, right? If you know how to play guitar, you pretty much know how to play bass,
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
Any guitarist will tell you that. So I was like, man, like the only thing I really don't know how to do is play piano. Okay, let's
Yeah.
try this, right? I always like to challenge myself.
It's healthy, I think.
I agree. So yeah, started with the digital production, met a couple rappers in high school, and I was like, man, like I could be the guy making these beats. So I just, the 10,000 hours,
Yeah.
lock yourself in a room and just go to town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just started grinding.
Yeah.
So you started using that keyboard.
I did.
Nice.
And like, let me tell you, you try to make beats on a keyboard like that, it's not easy. Man. There's no quantizing, there's no tricks and buttons to help you out and fix everything up and move this here, move that there. No, it's not like that. Right?
Yeah,
you got to play things perfectly.
It's crazy, to come from something like that to some of the tools you're working with nowadays, probably like night and day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Also, like I was born 1987, so it was like when I first recorded something, it was on an 8-track recorder.
Wow.
Right?
Most people, you guys probably don't even know what an 8-track recorder is. I barely know what an 8-track recorder is. I think I've seen 2 in my life.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, myself and the band, we recorded on an 8-track recorder, man, back in the day in high school. I want to say like 2007.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird, like the interest sparked of like the recording process.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Well, hearing yourself back and as the actual finished piece of music,
was really cool.
I bet.
I wanted to do it more and more and more.
Yeah, because before that, you could just play for other people, but it'd be really difficult. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
It'd be very difficult to actually hear yourself,
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It is really cool. It's kind of like you doing your podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So, moving along, basically, I just wanted to take that seriously.
Yeah.
I figured the band days were kind of done, and I had to find something that I could be passionate about.
Got you.
And I was always passionate about music. So, what's the next step?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You're just looking for that next avenue, and it just clicked.
Yeah, and like you were saying about being behind the scenes, where part of that is not true is I was actually a rapper at one point, believe it or not.
So was that like basically the same time as the keyboard and you started getting into the beat stuff?
Yes.
So I'd assume you would be playing around with it with like your own stuff first.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, doing a lot of writing and freestyling and stuff like that. That's when I got into, shout out my sister-in-law, Joni. She gave me a lot of her albums.
Okay.
When she had moved in to the house. And it was like Cannabis and Wu-Tang and like Biggie and
the good shit.
Yeah,
the good shit.
Like, come on,
yeah.
Man. Shout out Joni.
Yeah, that's a big influence right there.
Yeah, and like I heard this stuff and I was like, whoa, buddy. Like those drums, those melodies, like the sample chops. I was like, okay, like this is cool.
I think some of those samples were like the first type of music that I started paying attention to production behind music, even though like obviously not the way you do.
Right.
But that was the first time that I was like, holy, there's more than just the rapping,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. There's a lot to it, right? It's the melody to the words themselves, you know what I mean? Like you listen to a song and you can basically judge like, okay, is this person telling a story? But like you listen to a Wu-Tang song and like you're hearing words that like you might not even know what it means. You know what I
Literally.
mean? Like it's crazy. But yeah, so I learned to really appreciate the MC
Got you. Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
Right? Listening to rappers like Method Man and Cannabis and Raekwon and you know, the list goes on.
Absolutely.
Right? I was like, man, like how do these guys write this? You know? And funny enough, as a child, I was always writing poetry.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, music and lyrics is poetry.
Absolutely.
So what if I take some of these poems that I have
and try to put them
and I do it over an instrumental?
Crazy.
I'm like, wait a second, I just wrote a verse, right?
Crazy.
So yeah, that was kind of my thing for a bit, but I was more of like the battle rapper.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
like the guy that was just smoking a joint and popping out freestyles out his head.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Maybe I'll show you one day when you come visit my studio. But you know, sometimes I'm a pretty
Spit some
crazy.
bars.
I'm a pretty crazy guy.
Nice.
Right? But yeah, man. To be honest, I was doing the most.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I had a unit. I was working with a couple artists at the time, a couple friends of mine, and I was doing everything. So it came down to me writing, me making the beats, recording,
Jeez.
then rapping. You know, I was just talking about it with one of the guys the other day, who's a childhood friend of mine who helps me actually write songs like still to this day.
Wow.
And he was like, man, like, do you remember when like you used to record yourself, because like none of us knew how to record, and you'd have to come out of the booth and get the track ready for yourself, hit record, and then run back into the booth before it was your part. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like,
yeah,
we've come a long way.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's good that you like, you know, you got in the dirt. You know, you did it yourself,
Yeah,
so
you
you
have
can.
to.
It's, you know, no one can say that you haven't when you're giving advice or when you're talking or like you said, you do a lot of the development for other artists, right? So doing that yourself is a big, you know, stepping stone, because without that, how do you really know?
Right.
You know?
I'm a firm believer of this one thing that a wise man once told me, and he said, if you're a student of something and you're not studying it, you're done.
Fair.
Because there's always going to be somebody better than you.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right?
though.
So with that always in my mind, I'm like, man, like, you know, those 10,000 hours. So I'm going to put those 10,000 hours into drumming. I'm going to put those 10,000 hours into this beat production, right? But yeah, man, like I said, I was just doing the most.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
The years were going by. I was getting older. Everybody was going off and doing different things. And I'm like, man, what do I want to do? Do I really want to try to be an artist?
Yeah, which is a huge endeavor.
Because let me tell you, brother, it ain't easy.
Yeah.
You know, the saying of the traveling broke artist.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that phrase is around.
Yeah, that
Right?
completely makes sense, man.
Yeah, whether they're a singer, a producer, an engineer,
Yeah.
a painter,
Any of
a
the art
sculptor,
forms,
it
really.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anything with art, usually you don't make money unless you're mainstream.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you see it, and like I'm pretty big into like the comedians and stuff like that, and it's the same type of thing. It's
Exactly.
another art form that like, yeah, more than 90% of the industry is broke.
Yes.
You know, and that's just the way it is.
And then 99% of the stuff that you see out there where people aren't broke is usually fake anyways.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean the industry stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, the thing is like I said, I had to figure out what I wanted to do. Like, do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be a rapper? Do I want to be a writer behind the scenes? Do I want to be a producer? Do I want to be a drummer? right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I just want to be a guy that makes good records,
Got you.
you know? So I'm going to make an instrumental, you know? I hate calling them beats
Okay.
because I'm not a beat maker,
Interesting.
you know?
Interesting.
You can't put me in that category,
Yeah.
right? I make songs, man.
There you go. That's completely different.
It's completely different,
Yeah.
right? So my thing is, if I can write this song and I can produce this instrumental,
Yeah.
and I go, man, like I got something here, right? I don't have to be the guy doing it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't have to take all the cake. I don't have to be that greedy person, right? So that's where the artist development comes in.
Got you.
Well, if I find an artist, they're already good at what they do and they're passionate about what they do. Well, what if I give them that song that I know is a hit and they do it,
Yeah.
right? So,
That's crazy. It's a whole different side of the industry that you don't think about.
no. And again, it's going back to that team, right? Because let me tell you how hard it is to find an artist that's willing to put their ego and their pride aside and be like, so when you find when you try to find an artist, you want to be able to actually work with them in a sense that, you know, I have this instrumental, I have these lyrics, and I think you'd sound amazing on this. Okay? To try and find that person is very, very hard. It's very, very rare that you can find them and actually have them come into the studio and put their ego aside.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
be like, yeah, maybe I didn't write that, but I sang it or I rapped it.
yeah.
And now, because you did that, you made a hit.
Yeah. And a lot of mainstream, like a lot of the industry is like that, especially when you're talking in that top percentage. It's just part of the industry, you know. I can see how it would be hard to find an artist that wants to do that though,
Yes.
especially the ones that have that grind that you want, you know, at the same time.
Yes. And the thing is like artists get into like a comfortability, I find, of a sound,
Okay. Yep.
a certain type of sound that they're producing,
Yep.
right? And then as a producer, you go, well, man, that person's voice on an instrumental like this, structured like this, would be insane. And then you bring it to their attention, and then they're like, no, I don't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't do stuff like that.
That's why.
That's why I'm telling you to do
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, because that's how you could build, right?
Exactly. Right. So you just want to find somebody that you can actually work with. You know what I mean? Good energy is important. Good relationships are important. You know, some of the artists that I work with are some of my best friends. You know, the producers I work with are some of my best friends.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, man. It's just how it is.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. So what was your next step from there? You know, you decided you were going to get more into the production side.
Yeah.
Yeah, what'd you do from there?
So basically from there, it was just kind of trying to become more professional,
Okay.
right? So it was like a couple units. We had some minimal gear, you know, a couple studio monitors, a MIDI keyboard, you know, a Mac computer, and some soundproofing and a basic microphone.
Got you.
Right? Nothing crazy. Just your usual home setup, but in an industrial unit.
Okay.
Which is already trying to make it more professional, right?
Yeah.
So I went from a studio in Mississauga to a studio in, I guess you could say, Vaughan.
Okay.
That studio was called Loft Studios. That's kind of where the team started to build.
Okay. You all started coming together.
Yeah, like rapidly.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the team that currently exists to this date.
Wow. And when around was the Loft started?
I want to say like 2015.
Okay. So you've been with this team for a while.
For a while.
Yeah. That's good shit.
So yeah, it started there. We had a studio there called Loft Studios. Like I said, obviously it was a loft. So we had one studio on the main floor, full kitchen, bathroom, lounge, and then you would go up the stairs. We had the drum set up, a couple of guitars, and a booth and a control room.
Oh,
And from there,
sounds like a pretty legit setup, though.
it was a pretty legit setup.
Yeah.
It definitely was. I'll show you some pictures. But yeah, so from there, it was very much 2 feet deep into the hip hop scene.
Okay.
There was a lot of artists coming in and out of there. You know, I guess I've been around long enough to say that I've been involved in many different music scenes.
Got you.
Okay.
Got you.
From the punk to the rock to the metal
Yeah.
to hip hop to pop to Latin. The list goes on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Toronto hip hop scene is very toxic.
Got you.
It's very, very toxic.
Got you.
You know, I think everybody can kind of do their own research. That a lot of it surrounds drugs, violence, you know, and it's not something that you want to be involved in.
Fair enough. I mean, especially trying to develop to that next level that you're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, after we had Loft, I want to say we had the place for about 3 to 4 years. Okay.
Okay.
By the end of it, we were all kind of making some groundwork
Okay.
with artists that we were working with, production companies we were doing work for.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to Tom from Real Wolf, REEL Wolf
On Instagram.
on Instagram. Yeah, that guy I've known since I was, I don't know, 14 years old. And we've always been doing business together. And he was one of the reasons that I kind of had to, you know, step my game up,
Got you.
if you will.
Yeah.
Right. So by the end of Loft, it was kind of like, all right, guys, like, are we going to like take this to the next level or are we calling it?
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
So we had-
It's a
we
big decision.
It's a huge decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we had our meetings and we had our talks and we had ideas and game plans and strategies brought to the table. And, you know, we said, listen, like, we got to get a spot and we got to take this professionally.
Yeah.
Like, start just doing this, you know, full throttle, man. And it was one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Wow.
I couldn't see myself anywhere else.
So you guys shut that down and
Yeah.
then moved on to the cookhouse.
That's correct.
Where you at now?
That is correct.
Yeah.
We had, I think, I want to say like 8 to 10 days at most. Okay, let's call it a week
Yeah.
to get out of that place, and we we still didn't have a spot to move.
Oh,
So
damn.
yeah, it got a little bit stressful. I'm
For
not
sure.
gonna lie.
I would
You
assume.
got 7 days, 8 days to get all this stuff out of here, and you're like, uh-oh, where are we going?
Yeah.
like,
Who's keeping
This
the stuff?
is great that we're like, yeah, let's do this, but like, we need a spot.
Yeah. We don't have.
Right?
We don't have a rental unit.
Yeah, dude. Like, we don't even have a key to anything
Nothing.
at this point. So, you know,
All this equipment too, man.
I find the universe works in funny ways. So, like I said, we didn't have a spot, and then all of a sudden, one of my close friends, who's actually one of the guys that helps manage all the stuff over there at the cookhouse,
Okay.
he was just looking at units, and he goes, "Huh, what's this?" So I just found this place around the corner from us, and it's available on the 1st. And we're like, that's when we need to move out.
That's like the day.
Right? So like, we're like, okay, guys, we found a place that's available on the 1st. We need to go see it because this might be our only option.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, We pull up to meet the landlord. He brings us in, shows us one half of the unit, shows us the other half of the unit. He goes, by the way, this is a fully soundproof recording studio. We're like, what? Right? I look at all the guys and I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
You know? Like, legit, dude. Like,
what you needed.
I'm talking like $1 million studio.
Wow.
Like, built in there. Okay? And unfortunately, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
Because the landlord decided to sell it.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean.
And they knocked it down.
Oh, that sucks.
That really hurts my heart, man.
That sucks.
Really hurts my heart. Yeah. And I even like know the guy that built it and everything. Anyways, yeah. So we were in there, Cookhouse Woodbridge from 2020 to 2023.
Got you. So you guys moved, I mean, kind of recently.
Yes, we moved last year.
Yeah.
We've actually been in our new location for a year this month.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so unfortunately they knocked that down and we had to find another
spot
location.
You had some time this time though.
We had some time.
Yeah.
Right? We actually had a month. So we had secured our new unit.
Yeah.
Which is on New Toronto, a month before we had to move out of the old place. Which,
got you.
Thank goodness we did that because it was hell trying to move out of there.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why is that?
It was a lot of stuff.
Yeah?
Like a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, like TVs, couches, 2 whole studios.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
All the equipment and furniture.
All the soundproofing that we had to take off the ceilings and the walls and yeah.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it took about I want to say like a good month and a half just to get set up at the new place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff, man. You know, when you do come by, like you'll
come check it out.
You'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I gotta come check it out for sure.
For sure. Yeah, man. But yeah, so like I said, we've been there for about a year and it's been great. Made a lot of good records out of there already.
Nice.
And yeah, I couldn't be happier with where we are at the moment.
Awesome, man. Awesome. As you like that joint there, let's talk about cannabis, man. At what point did you start smoking cannabis?
I want to say like 13, 14.
Okay.
No, 14.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to say like grade 9.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell us, like, what was your experience?
It was great. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So great that I'm still doing it today, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah. Shout out to Tom. Shout out to Tom from Real Wolf and the boys from the band because he smoked us on our first joint.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I remember like it was yesterday. We used to go to this one spot close to our high school called, he used to call it the Sacred Circle. And,
okay.
We all named it that. And it was just this one spot in this forest that was just, there were like trees falling down, like there were perfect benches in a circle.
Okay.
So the trees fell down like there were perfect benches in a circle. So he called it the Sacred Circle.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
So we would just always go there and get stoned.
Nice.
But all of us were creatives. Right?
Yeah.
We were all into music.
Gotcha.
We were all, you know, after school, back to our buddy Alex's house. We had all of our equipment there, making songs, practicing out at a show. Tom, obviously, if you look him up, he's a director.
Okay.
And I remember back in grade 9, we met in art class. And that's where all that started.
Yes.
Right? And he was like, man, like, you know, what do you want to do when you're older? I'm like, man, I just want to make music, you know, like as a career.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to be a director. And funny enough, both of us are potheads.
Yeah.
But both of us do exactly what we told each other.
There you go, man.
Do.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what this is about, and that's why one of the reasons I'm glad to have you on is because you're a perfect representative of.
I appreciate that.
Of what we're about here. It's that passionate stoner, and we're trying to fight that stigma. You know,
yes.
Just because we smoke cannabis, it doesn't mean we're lazy stoners, you
Not
know.
at all,
We're
man.
here getting a lot of stuff done.
We get a lot done in a day.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I think I get more done in a day smoking weed than a lot of people that I know that don't smoke weed.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. I just to each their own. You know what I mean? Like it's an awesome thing to have you here, Bill, to represent that. So I appreciate you coming out.
I appreciate you having me, bro. I really do appreciate you having me.
So now I think you kind of already spoke about it, but like how often are you consuming now?
I do consume quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it depends on what I'm doing.
Fair enough. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like today, including this one, I want to say 3.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If I wake up on a Saturday and I'm just like, you know, oh, I don't feel like doing anything. You know, I just,
day
you know,
off.
I was in the studio till 2 a.m. I'm just chilling. Like I'll be at home, like in the backyard on my laptop, making some melodies, and man, I could just go.
Nice.
I mean, I'll just go.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Sometimes you kind of just like forget about how many you smoked in a day. But
Been there many times, man.
yeah, and you know, like I am very much on the fact that weed is good, but I also agree that it's not good for everybody.
I'm huge on that.
Right.
That's my belief as well.
I do music, right? I'm not an athlete,
Yeah.
right? I have, you know, a younger niece and 2 nephews at home that I live with.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very hard to hide things from a 12 going on 13-year-old.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to instill in them that, like, listen, like, no, you're a dancer. Like,
Yeah.
You're a hockey player. You're this, you're that. Like, you can't do any of that stuff.
100%.
Drinking? No. Smoking? No. Smoking anything? No.
Yeah.
Vaping? No. Right? So again, I think weed is very good for the world.
And it works well for you.
It works well for me, but
Which is a huge thing.
But again, like I don't think that it's for everybody.
Yeah, man, I'm completely with you. When people ask me, they're like, "Are you like an advocate for everyone to smoke?" And I'm like, "No, I'm an advocate for people that need it and enjoy it, or if it helps them, then it's good. But it's not for everybody. You know, some people have panic attacks when they smoke." So yeah, it is what it is.
For me, like obviously, like, you know, smoking at 13, 14, it was just kind of like, oh, like I'm just smoking for fun. But then it's like, you know, you obviously I went through those phases of like not smoking.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, well, wait a second, like, you know, this helps me sleep better. I went through an injury in 2014 that like I had to have a microscopic hand surgery.
Oh, wow.
And it was at a point where they didn't know if I was going to be able to use my hand ever again.
Dang.
Right? At the time, I was in a mechanic apprenticeship, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Right? And I had a studio.
Jeez.
I was a drummer, guitar player, making instrumentals, playing piano, doing everything with my hands.
And what had you crushed your hand? What happened? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
It was glass, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a laceration. I ended up... I don't know if you want me to go into detail here, but I ended up severing 2 tendons.
Wow.
And I also cut through the main artery in my hand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big.
Shout out to
big
Tony that got
injury.
me to the hospital doing 200 down the highway, let me tell you.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
crazy. I couldn't imagine.
Yes. And let me tell you, when you go through an injury like that, the type of medications that these doctors will give you.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not a joke.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
Yeah.
And a lot of people come out of stuff like that addicted to the pills.
Yeah, 100%. I'm assuming opioids.
Smoke weed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
go to sleep. It's the best thing you can do. Right?
Yeah.
Just you know, take your usual Tylenol, smoke some weed, and go to bed.
Well, that answers my next question, which was going to be, what do you use it for now, you know, medicinally? But you just said, you know,
yes,
pain relief.
Definitely a medicinal thing.
Yeah.
But it also does spark my creativity.
Nice.
But
nice.
I've also trained myself that I don't need it when I'm in the studio.
Got you.
You know,
yeah,
I can get into the studio and be around somebody that smoking's not okay.
Yeah.
And there are sessions that I do like that.
Yeah.
For example, I mentioned earlier that I work with a 15-year-old artist.
Yeah.
Right?
Obviously.
And sometimes his parents are in the sessions, right?
Yeah.
I can't be
Yeah,
smelling.
It just makes sense, man.
I can't be smelling like weed.
Yeah.
Right?
It just makes sense.
It's just almost like,
time
well,
and a
like
place.
realistically, I could, but it's a respect thing.
Yeah. Time and a place.
Exactly.
You
Time
know?
and a place.
And like you said, it's not something that you need. It's
Correct.
something that you choose to consume because
Correct.
When you choose to.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I
I hear you, bro. This what's this called?
So the pink gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely some
yeah.
pink gas, let me tell you.
Yeah. So I didn't talk about the weed at all here, but I got him smoking some of the pink gas that I grew myself, and I was just smoking on some of the Georgia pie here. Showed you guys it a couple times before, so we're not going to do a close-up of it, but got to get some new strains in here. But the pink gas is a reliable, heavy indica, and you said you're an indica man, so...
I'm definitely an indica man, and I will tell you, my friend, you got some good stuff, buddy.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I pride myself in that, and that's what we do here, and fucking keep it rolling, man. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing everything with us, and sharing your passion, and just enlightening us in everything you do. Yeah, man, it was a great fucking time.
I appreciate it, dude. Thank you for having me, man.
Do you have any? I know you've already said some, but any final shout outs, final words?
Yeah, shout out everybody at the cookhouse. Shout out to everybody that just supports us, whether it's me, myself, or the artists I work with, the producers I work with. I love y'all.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Man, I love it. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming out. Like I said, to everyone watching, if you enjoy what we're doing, make sure to like, follow, and share on YouTube at High Passion Pod, or on Instagram and Spotify at High Passion Podcast. If you want to keep up with our guests, drop them a follow on Instagram at music_by_Millz on Instagram, or hit them up at Cookhouse Recording Studio. I want to give a big shout out to Sean Sweeney at SeanCS10 for everything you do for the podcast and making this all happen. And to all our viewers, I hope you tune in next time. And until then, stay positive and stay passionate. Peace.
Whoa, when things get a little rocky, nothing ever will and nothing ever gonna stop me. I'ma say it loud.